It is Super Wednesday on this super windy Super Thursday. And I'm your super pal, the grumpy McGrump idiot that is the OGGM, broadcasting live from Site B, the man with no face, at 9:10 in the morning on this, the 14th day, 3.14. Go get yourself some pie. Campaign 4 Critical Role. How I would book it. Since Daggerheart was announced last year, there has been a lot of speculation as to whether it is going to be the source for Critical Role Campaign 4. For anybody who's been paying even the slightest bit of attention to Campaign 3, like me, the general direction of the actions Matt Mercer has taken since the very beginning, up to most recently, seems to be leading to the assumption that he is trying to cut the connection between Xandria, Tal'Dorei, the past 10 years of Critical Role, and D&D. He has been killing off, replacing, or reorganizing anything that he's filtered in from D&D proper to the Tal'Dorei Exandria world. Gods, spells, NPCs, races, places, names, anything like that has slowly been killing off. In fact, the main plot line of Campaign 3 has been the eradication of the existing... Ooh, a spam call. Should we take it? Of course we should. Hello? Hello? Okay, I guess they don't want to talk to me. Has been that, Mercer is... erasing these connections and very, killing off the gods. The whole thing has been, and now they're on the moon to finally face the god killer and either stop this transition or help it unfold. So that's been the entire plot line. And since Daggerheart was announced, it was speculated that Daggerheart was going to be the campaign setting for Campaign 4. And there's a lot of things in Daggerheart that aren't in Campaign 3, like frog people. But there are a lot of things in Campaign 3 that are in Daggerheart, like turtle people and robots. So it does seem to feel like the Campaign 4 Daggerheart will be Campaign 4. But there's still the connection with Wizards of the Coast and D&D 2024. So will Campaign 4 be continuing to use Dungeons & Dragons? Will they be showing us playtesting it, transitioning from their current weird combination? Yeah, that's great, but they won't do that because that's not what their fans want. But good idea. Good idea. It would be nice to see if they did a dark. They could do a one-shot, quote-unquote one-shot, to see if how well their fans react to dark, though if Candle Obscura is any, probably not. So, in the tradition of fantasy booking of sports and professional wrestling, in regards to the transition between Campaign 3 and Campaign 4, let me have a go. And then imagine there's explosions behind me. All right. So we start with the announcement of Daggerheart and the assumption that Campaign 4 is going to be Daggerheart. We feed into that the transitional that seems to be in Campaign 3 of Mercer slowly killing off storylines, killing off any connection between Campaign 3 and Daggerheart and Campaign 4 and Wizards of the Coast. So by the time we reach this point in the story, pretty much anything that Mercer borrowed from Wizards of the Coast has now been eliminated from Critical Role lore. Those things are gone, dead, reorganized, renamed, reshifted, whatever, as far as Xandria is concerned. And the plot of Campaign 3 revolves around whether the players can stop Rudalus, the living moon, and the entity trapped inside the living moon from fulfilling this goal of eradicating Xandria as we know it and replacing it with a new one. Oh, I totally agree. I just don't know how it, if they could do that. They could pull a Dave Chappelle and just disappear. Just disappear for a year, 2 years, 3 years, and then come back. Come back with something new. Come back with something completely different. Maybe come back with a completely different cast. Who cares if they lose the current fan base? The current fan base is toxic and tearing them apart. The current fan base does not love them. Even if D&D and I completely disagreed on the whole thing with the Mercer and whatever, though I think he just, whatever. I think we can both agree in regards to the Critical Role fan base. The Critical Role fan base hates you, Critical Role. They do not love you. For every time they say, oh, we love and support you, there's 2 other times they say, we're going to come in your house and kill your baby. So, yeah. So that's one. But I'm doing fantasy booking of Campaign 4 based upon the way the world of Critical Role exists today. Yes. Okay. So we know one of the 2 females is probably going to go bad. Either Ashley's character or Laura's character is going to go bad. And perhaps that's always been there. We don't know. But the group is not cohesively working together. There's hints that the robot might go bad and may have always been bad. There's hints that Liam's character might go bad or may have always been bad. So there's always been this group has not coalesced the well as well as the previous groups. Maybe that's intentional. Maybe that's accidental. Maybe they're just not trying so hard to appease the fans. Maybe they just don't care and want to have fun. And if in having fun, that means the group doesn't coalesce as it has in the past, that's fine. Maybe on subliminal level, if you don't believe it's scripted, they kind of all know it's ending. And if you do believe it's scripted, then they all kind of know Campaign 3 is the end of Critical Role as we know it, whether they continue their association with Wizards or not. Add to that Wizards' announcement of the Fallbacks. The Fallbacks is Wizards of the Coast's new emergency adventuring group that they are forcing down our throat to be as popular as Critical Role. They're introducing them in books, comic books, adventures. They're probably going to play a part in the Vecna thing, whatever. We know that as 2024 D&D goes forward into 2025 D&D, the Fallbacks, this adventuring group, this found family dysfunctional, obvious Critical Role ripoff adventuring group is going to be the focus. As opposed to previously, the focus has been on the critters and, hey, we haven't really had an adventure or adventuring group we focused on in a while other than, Drizzt and anything Drizzt associated. So we know Wizards is this, which seems to imply that Wizards is not counting on them staying loyal. They want to have a fallback. And we know that Campaign 3 is coming to an end. Mercer is destroying Exandria as we know it, and Daggerheart is out there, and the assumption has been since day one that Daggerheart is the core setting for Campaign 4. Campaign 3 ends on a cliffhanger. One of the 2 girls goes bad, helps the bad guy. The players don't win for a change. Things are not wrapped up in a tight, needy bow. Everything that Mercer has been building for happens in the worst possible way. That's how Campaign 3 ends. They take a break for 6 months. We don't hear anything from the main cast. They do other plays. They do one-shots. Sometimes we see 2 or 3 of them, but we don't see them together. We don't see any of the main cast together for 6 months to a year. Campaign 4 begins to bubble up. 2024 D&D is out. It's been out for a year. Daggerheart is out. It's been out for at least 6 months to a year. Campaign 4 starts bubbling up. We see maybe a 20-minute video with one player and Matt and rumor mongering. By now they know how to manipulate the press. But now they know how to manipulate their fan base. Then another a week later, 2 weeks later, maybe we see them do another Illuminated Worlds. So we start seeing the group together. We start seeing some more live play tests of Daggerheart. We see them bubbling up another little 1-shot, 2-shot to manipulate the group and to get people interested. We're biting. The bait has been set. Then the announcement of Campaign 4, and they announced that Campaign 4 will be using 5.5 as we know it. Not 2024 D&D, but 5.5. They're going to continue with the system we know. We're introduced Session 0, Campaign 4, a brand new group of characters, maybe even some new faces. Maybe, I don't know, my first guess would be Laura and Travis are not showing up as frequently because maybe they want to have a second child. Maybe Marisha's not showing up as frequently because maybe she is pregnant and wants to have a baby. We don't know. Maybe Ashley isn't showing up because Ashley is ingrained in doing Avatar stuff and cartoons and her whole little political stuff. Maybe a couple other familiar faces are gone or not showing up as much because, let's face it, they're getting old and they've been doing this for 10 years. Whatever, we see some established faces, we see some new faces. Maybe TJ Storm. And it starts with you thinking that they're still using D&D and they're remaining loyal to Wizards. Nothing's been official, but we see them making D&D characters. Now, if they're switching to Daggerheart, alternate universe number 1, slowly between episode 1 and episode 5, that first 2-month period, we see the transition. We see Tal'Dorei, Exandria, how it has changed in the aftermath of the apocalypse of the cliffhanger ending of Campaign 3. It's a brand new calamity. It is not the world we've known for the past 10 years. It's an apocalypse. It's Dark Sun. It's not what you expected. There's brand new races, brand new classes, brand new magic, brand new mythology. Things have been forgotten. Some of these new characters remember the world as it was before the calamity. Others are just accept things as they are. But the shadow of this apocalypse, the shadow that Campaign 3 failed, is over it. And that is shown through transitioning from episode 1 through episode 5 as the characters transition rule set wise from the rule set we know, Dungeons and Dragons 5.5, D&D today, to Daggerheart. The characters slowly mutate. They lose 5e powers and start gaining Daggerheart powers. The stats change. Even how the characters appear change. That sounds scripted, I know, but maybe Matt has told them ahead of time that this is what we're doing, and he's playing it through live play, slowly switching from 5.5 to Daggerheart. So by episode 6, they are completely transitioned to the Daggerheart characters blocks. The world is completely transitioned, and now they have to go forward and decide, do we fix the world post-apocalypse? Do we find out at the cliffhanger, or do we try and get the world back to the way it was? But that is how you introduce Daggerheart to the fan base. You definitely don't do what Wizards of the Coast did with 4th. Alternate universe, same thing, but they're switching from 5.5 to D&D 2024. Again, you have the characters start with episode 1 as we know it, D&D as we see it today. Slowly over the next 5 episodes, you transition the characters from the 5.5 2014 Player's Handbook to the 2024-2025 6.0 Player's Handbook. Racial changes, class changes, ability changes, number changes, even appearances of characters change. Things that used to be there are gone. Things that weren't there before are back. And again, the main overriding plot line is the transition from the cliffhanger ending of Campaign 3 into this Campaign 4 post-Campaign 3 apocalypse. And then you spend the rest of the year telling the story of how the changes are affecting. It's slow, it's gradual. It's, Wizards of the Coast or, TSR spent a year transitioning from rule set to rule set using the Avatar Crisis. And they did it again with the Spell Plague. They failed to do that with 4, and they failed to do that with 5. Saying thankfully 5 was better accepted than 4, but they didn't transition it slowly. In order for this to work, it has to be a slow 6-month to a year-long transition of getting the players, of getting the fan base used to the new rule set. You start with what we know. Over the first 5, you transition to the new rules. And then for the rest of that 6 month to a year, you tell the story of how the world has changed from what we know, Campaign 3, D&D 5.5, to today, Campaign 4, post-apocalypse, after the cliffhanger ending of Campaign 3. Mercer succeeded. The world ended the way he wanted it to. The players did not win. Everything we know has changed, including the way we perceive the characters, whether they're using Daggerheart, which is 60%, or they stay loyal to D&D, which is 40%. And over the next year, Mercer tells the story of that apocalypse, tells the story of the cliffhanger ending, tells the story of how Bell's Hells failed. And as we go into year 2 of Campaign 4, the players are left with this responsibility. The world has changed. Do they accept the change and go forward and try and come to grips between what they think they know and what the way now things are? Or do they try and reset the world back to the way it was? What happened on the moon? What was the resolution of the Campaign 3 ending, that cliffhanger? Where are those characters? That's how I'd book it. Now, I'm not talking about who these guys are all talking about, how it's not going to work, how you book it, what you use. I'm speaking in the reality of the way we see Critical Role now, not the way we would want things, the way they should. I think we all know there's ways they should do things, the way we would want them to do things, the things that they need to do that's best for them and best for the industry. What's best for them, guys, is for them all to stop, especially Mercer, especially Laura, especially Marisha, especially Ashley. Step away, guys. Just step away. Work in the background, produce stuff, write stuff, do your voiceovers, work on the video game, but step away from on screen. Let somebody else do that. Focus on the cartoon. And then whatever Campaign 4 is, have it be all new people. Have it be a completely different game. Maybe just have Campaign 3 be the end of Critical Role as we know it. And whatever Deering Tin Press does in 2025 is something new, something different. Maybe it is Dark Sun. That would be great. Could you imagine them doing, fuck it, we're going to do the most inappropriate game we can think of, and we're going to run Human Occupied Landfill and Dark Sun. Look, slavery, suck it, wizards. I don't think they'll do that, but I think that's all we want them to do them. Yes. Candle Obscura failed because it's not their fan base and it wasn't a game. It was, I don't know what it was. It was a not horror, not steampunk, horror steampunk game written by somebody who admitted he hates Lovecraft, he hates steampunk, and he hates Victorian, and he didn't know what the fuck he was doing. He was trying to redo Blades in the Dark, and it failed. Whatever they do with Illuminated Worlds has to be something their audience knows and something the person actually wants to tell. And secondly, they need to embrace that they're not, that they're a show. Well, they don't need to embrace it. They know it. The audience needs to understand that what it has forgotten. That Critical Role, as he says in the opening, every single frickin' episode is a show about a bunch of nerdy actors playing D&D. The audience forgot that at some point in time, so they need to get back to that. They need to understand that the product is stale, but needs a familiar facelift, which could be Daggerheart, could be something completely different. But yeah, the business model they're following now is getting stale. Campaign 3 is a failure. Candle Obscura is a failure. Myths was a failure. Does anybody even know they did the Persona 4 live play? No, I don't think anybody even watched that. Their Mortal Kombat live play was a failure. And I'm sure to play devil's advocate, I'm sure they're exhausted. The expectations the fan base put on them as just unrealistic. Every morning they get out to push Critical Role, to push Darrington Press. They go to the conventions. They do these things. They're knowing full well that the fan base is just going to tear them apart, that the people who hate Critical Role are still going to hate Critical Role. The toxic clout chasers are still going to go after them. They can't win. They cannot win, and they have to know that. Laura Bailey is not working at the looking at the stack of death threats that got sent to her baby and going, yeah, I want to keep doing this. I so love this part of my life. I so love fearing for the life of my child. Did I say pet baby? I think I did. I'm sure Marisha loves the death threat she gets every day. I'm sure Matt loved all the shit he got for his stupid depression video. They're exhausted, so they need a facelift. They need to stay away. And whatever the future of Campaign 4 Darrington Press is, there needs to be a very long break, and there needs to be a sufficient facelift, and there needs to be a clear, concise transition from, hey, we play D&D for the past 10 years to, hey, now we're playing Daggerheart, alternate reality number 1, or 2024 D&D, alternate reality number 2, and the story of Campaign 4 in closing is that transition. Start with the characters in a world as we know it, slowly transition to the new rule set, spend the rest of the year explaining the apocalypse and having them try and figure out what was the ending of the cliffhanger and where do they go with her. For the second half, I completely agree. For the first half, 50%. 60%. I agree that he deserved it because it was the wrong place to do it. And if he truly meant what he said, then there are better ways to go about it than the choice he made. And 90% he deserved it because he had to know. That said, nobody really deserves that much hate for just being an idiot. Just, and by all the videos people made, including myself, it just martyred him. Should have just been like, dude, you're an idiot. Shut up. Move on. But we didn't. So, yeah, I do agree in some sense he deserved what he got because he knew better. But nobody deserves death threats. Nobody deserves threats of harm over a TV show. And if anybody deserves a bunch of clout chasing, it's me. So instead of paying all that attention to him, send some of your 4,000 subs over my way. I can take it, and I need the subs. Let's fake it. I'm a heel. I'm a shill seeking recognition. I want to manipulate the algorithm. I know that people talking shit about me is still people talking about me. So yeah, Matt, I agree that he deserved for the second half 100%. 100% deserved. That was completely unnecessary. Nobody fucking cared. If you wanted to talk about his political affiliation and his thoughts on the political situation, whatever it may be, that was not the place. There are places to do that. That was not it. If you wanted to talk about your depression, and if it's really a thing, great. Not the place to do it. There are literally Facebook groups, Reddit groups, MySpace groups, Nextdoor groups, My Neighborhood groups, entire world out there of people who want to listen to you talk about your depression. Not Twitter, not Instagram, dude. How stupid was that? 100% agree. That was stupid. What the fuck were you thinking? Did you think the entire world was going to go, oh, we love you, hug, we're sorry? And the worst part is, it's not the people that like me or driving in dragons that went after you. You knew we were going to go after you. It's your fans, dude. Your fans went after you because your fans hate you. Yeah. Okay. I mean, yeah, but I 100% agree. But remember, the point of this was not what I think they should do. The point is how I would fantasy book the transition, which I think is a pretty good story. And if it was anybody else doing anything else, it would be an excellent story. Unfortunately, it's Critical Role, so no matter what they do, they're doomed to fail. So they really should just stop and do something completely different. Disappear for a year, and then the Darrington Press production company does a brand new live play of a brand new game with maybe some brand new people. But I wasn't fantasy booking that. I was fantasy booking the transition from D&D 5.5, the end of Campaign 3 to Campaign 4, which I think is a pretty good story. So just from that point of view, if you agree that my story is good, let me know. If you think there's a better way to transition from Campaign 3 to Campaign 4 and still do Critical Role D&D, let me know. If you think there's a better choice that they could do, then continue doing what they're doing. Well, I 100% agree. But that's not fantasy booking. If it was 100% I'd agree, I would be like, do a fucking superhero game. Do a space game. Do it. Yeah, don't do fantasy. Take a 2-year-long break from fantasy, guys. Anyways, that's it. I hope you appreciate this weirdness. If you do, let me know. If you don't, let me know. This is just, this is me speculating. I'm sure I'll bring it up again. I've still got to finish reading the playtest, though everybody else is already doing a much better job of it than I am. And I really kind of got to get on to reading the playtest of DC 20, since Dungeon Coach was very nice to send me a copy. And I don't know how many people have that, as opposed to everybody and their dog having playtests copies of Daggerheart. So if you want to hear me keep doing Daggerheart, let me know. If you want to hear me stop doing Daggerheart and focus on other things, let me know, because I do have to do DC 20. Yeah. So there you go. Have a great day. Stay safe. It is super windy where I live, and I will talk to you losers later.